Welcome to the Emily the Mystic Show. You're about to walk through a portal that leads to all things mystical, magical, spiritual, and supernatural. I'm your host, Emily. I'm a spiritual mentor, an Akashic Records practitioner and teacher, an intuition development coach, and a galactic channeler. If you're an old soul on a self-discovery and healing journey, you are in the right place. We'll be diving in deep to some of my favorite mystical topics, including manifestation, past lives, the spirit world, energy, and so much more. Get ready to embrace your inner mystic and live your most authentic life possible. The portal is now open. Welcome to another mystical guest episode here on the Emily the Mystic Show podcast. Wow, my dear listener, I am so pumped to introduce you to today's guest because she is such a wonderful, mystical, magical soul with so much fairy energy, and you're going to love her and you're going to love her gifts. So I am now going to introduce you to the mystical Donnie Soddu. Donnie is a shamanic practitioner and the founder of Highlight Rituals, a fine jewelry brand infused with healing energy. Her work blends shamanic practices, crystal healing, and deep energy work to help people clear blockages, find clarity, and deepen their healing journey. She serves as a bridge between the mystical and the practical, helping people connect with their energy, trust their intuition, and bring more intention into their lives. Amazing. Hello, Donnie.
Hello. I'm so excited to be here.
Yippee. And where are you joining us from? Where are you located?
I'm in lovely Westport, Connecticut.
Fabulous.
Love it here. Mm-hmm. You will never take me out of this place.
Amazing. And can you share with us your astrology, sun, moon, and rising?
Yes, I'm an Aquarius sun, Aquarius moon, and Sag rising.
I have to laugh because literally I always interview my guests during the astrology season that they are connected to.
I love it.
So thank you for bringing your Aquarian energy here with us today. And yeah.
On the new moon in Aquarius.
On the new moon in Aquarius as we record this, 100%. I just feel called to ask, what is the new moon bringing forward for you?
I feel like you're called to ask that because my guides are literally trying to give me every single sign I could possibly get to do this thing that they've been wanting me to do that I've been refusing to do, so it's hilarious that you feel called to ask that. I'm going to be starting a new content series, which maybe sounds a little trivial, but actually, I'm going to be sharing my visions from shamanic journeys in a visual way and just describing some of the lessons I receive so that I can make the practice of journeying or connecting with spirit a little clearer and more tangible for people.
Yes. Can't wait.
And I'm really creative and visual. So it's just like, I just need to get these visions like out of my, I don't know, head aura.
Well, as an Aquarius, you're such a visionary. So to help us see the vision and come along for the ride with you with that vision, I feel like that is so powerful.
Yeah. So I actually think I'm going to be launching that series tomorrow. Yeah. So I'm trying to commemorate this new moon in a big way. I've been getting pushed to do that and share in that way for so long, but I have my own struggles with, being seen and showing up in that way that I'm really working through. And so I'm trying to just like honor the guidance and trust. And so I feel like there's no better time to do it than now.
Yes. I love this for you.
I can't wait to hear more about your story and how you got to where you are now. But because we're on this topic, I would first like to start out with being a shamanic practitioner. So I would love to know, what does that mean to you? And can you explain to us what shamanism is in your own words?
Ooh, yes, great questions. So, and I can probably actually answer them both kind of in this answer. I'll weave them together. But I essentially work with helping spirits, whether that's nature spirits, the elements, ancestors, higher selves, inner children, angels, basically all the helping spirits to help my clients on their path to their highest good and for their highest healing. Every single, let's call it, healing session that I do is different. Um, and I really am just opening up as a channel for the helping spirits to guide me, whether that's through sharing messages for the client, or whether that's through truly serving as like an energetic conduit for healing. So that's essentially what it is. Shamanism isn't a religion or anything like that. It's a very, very, very ancient practice, if you will, that I personally believe that everybody can connect to and sort of has a part of. Um, so yeah.
I love this. And where did this come from? How did we get here? Did you have gifts in childhood? Did this evolve or later on in life as an adult?
Yeah. So um I feel like I did have gifts in childhood, or I was just kind of there was something there for sure. But for various reasons, one of them being I was just like way too much for my mom, like too extra, like coming with the heady questions like every day, like just way too much. Um, you know, kind of got suppressed, kind of like got, what's the word, like conditioned to know that there were certain things that you shouldn't necessarily talk about seeing or experiencing or be asking about, right? And I think instead of just sort of telling myself that those things didn't exist and going on about my business, which I think maybe some people do, I just sort of like kept it all to myself and still totally believed, but like knew when I could say it and when I couldn't. And as I got older and sort of, came into my own and, got a little bit more confidence and, all that, um, I definitely sort of came out as like a crystal girl and more, you know, spiritually oriented person and all of that. But I definitely also grew up in a household that was both spiritual and religious. We had a ton of like affirmation books all over the place. And so I was reading from those like at a young age. I never really thought that that was, non-traditional. And that type, spiritual conversations were like happening around me all the time. So I'm really blessed that I got to have that, and that, my parents would let me have my crystals and go out in the woods and like do all my things. But um yeah, it wasn't really like I wasn't necessarily part of like a very witchy family. It was just like they were both spiritual and religious, and we went to church and Sunday school and like all of that. So I kind of had the best of both worlds, if you will. But yeah, so taking I guess fast forwarding, um, like I said, was always, alternative, if you will, or however you want to describe it. And I was a little bit of a hippie, always very connected to crystals and things like that. And but when I started to, I think my awakening really happened when I became a mom for the first time. And motherhood was like such a portal for me. I feel like it started even when I was pregnant. And that's when I started to sort of get the pull of, okay, I got to get out of the city. Like, I need to be in nature, like all of those things, which I thought were just, I'm getting older and I need to move to the suburbs, and now looking back at it, I'm like, oh, that's, that makes a lot of sense. I'm going to, basically my path is to be a shamanic practitioner. So, it all sort of came full circle. But yeah, so it started when I first became pregnant, and I was also just going through a lot of stuff professionally. I was, I had a great career. But I was always like striving for something more, and always felt like I I didn't quite arrive yet, and I needed it. It just didn't feel like it was for me, or it was right, or I just always just felt like a little off, if you will. On paper, I was doing super well, and I was very young for having achieved what I had achieved. And so it was difficult for me to look at that and be like, oh, I'm not satisfied with this, you know? Um, and so I would just like not create issues, but sort of, poke holes in what I had done. And just, I had a lot of anxiety, and just, it was just a very challenging time, specifically related to like my career, my identity. And it very quickly got into a place where what I was doing day to day for most of my time was like not at all aligned with like my soul purpose. And I didn't actually know that at the time to be able to articulate it in that way. It just felt extremely uncomfortable. And I felt just really just like down a lot. And so of course I start turning to my, my healers and all the intuitives that I had been, working with. Never was working with any of them for the purposes of like learning how to be a practitioner myself. Like, that was not, I was literally just, I'm a client, please help me. You can connect in this way that I cannot. You have these gifts and this magic that I need, and just help me like find clarity in my life and feel better. And so I was doing that for a while. And I ended up one day working with a healer that I'd worked with for a long time. And she said to me, few things. I won't like bore you with it, but the most important part was, this is going to be the last time that we chat for a while in this way, because by coming to me and asking me these questions, you're essentially subordinating yourself, and you are not seeing like what you really are and what you can do. And I was like, excuse me, like, what are you talking about?
Whoa. What a way to say what I know she was trying to say. Yeah.
But like, she's, the best, but I was just like, oh my God, like, I really need you right now. We've worked together for a while now, and I didn't feel abandoned as much as I was just sort of blindsided, especially, I think the conversation also got into like me being a healer and not knowing it. And I was just like, literally, I'm trying to figure out like what marketing position I should take next. Like, this is not acceptable that you're saying this to me right now. And
Yeah.
so that happened. She gave me some resources, like told me to like, read this book and reach out to that teacher and like be on my way. And that was, such an incredible gift that she gave me, because I listened to that and I started to really come into my own. So that was like the first step. Then a bunch of stuff happens, as we all know. And some of the stuff you don't even like realize the significance of until you're like years down the line looking back. But I would say the next most important thing was connecting with my fourth great grandmother through a medium. And I did not know her, obviously. But I did this one pranic healing, and the healer happened to also be a medium. And he was like, I'm so sorry, I can't really concentrate on your healing because you have an ancestor here who's like really wanting to talk to you. And like, are you cool if, I connect you? And so that started this really beautiful relationship. And turns out I had also been doing some, I had this like strange urge to like look into my family tree and just like my ancestral line, if you will. And so I was doing all this research, and I actually came onto my fourth great grandmother because she had a very unique story. And we had always been told in our family that her son and the rest of her children were Native American. And so, of course, I'm going through the spiritual journey. I'm like, oh, am I Native American? Wouldn't that be so cool? And so I decided that I'm setting out to figure out, if that is true or not. I find that it's not true, and that he actually was half white, and that it was a situation where my fourth great grandmother, who was an enslaved person, was, connected with I think it was the son of the plantation owners.
Wow.
And my this was my third great grandfather's parents. So he was not Native American. And so that totally took me down a different path and opened my eyes. And so I was like, I need to understand the nature of this relationship. Was she taken advantage of? So on and so forth. And what I ended up uncovering was that, this guy was a Confederate soldier, but ended up leaving, money to this child, never got remarried, never didn't leave anything to anyone else. And then the child ends up naming his firstborn son after the dad. And I'm like, well, none of those things indicate to me that this was something that, at least the African American side of my family felt like erasing. In fact, you're naming someone after, that was really interesting to me. So I was so enamored with what was going on here and trying to figure this out through all of these, articles and things like that. So flash forward, I'm meeting with this medium, and my fourth great grandmother starts to refer to some of the things that I found in my family tree, like exploration, and to essentially identify herself.
Whoa.
Yeah. So it was really wild. And then she says something, I'm going to butcher the exact phrase, but it was something like, well, let's really talk about why you're here. And it's the magic. And I was like, okay. She's also just so awesome and so feisty. So we work together a lot now. But in the beginning, I was like, whoa, like very forward, very feisty, very awesome. Like, so much, just an awesome woman. But so she's like, let me tell you why you're here. So I connect with this grandmother, and she's telling me, okay, the reason you're really here, it's for the magic. So let me tell you. So she starts to talk about how she was the sort of medicine maker for her community, and that she was, really serving as the protector. She essentially was like the practitioner there, like the healer. And that, this is in our line, and it's been passed down, and that she was making sure that I got to connect with the gift, because the previous generations sort of between us weren't really ready. They just had sort of too much going on in their journeys for this lifetime to be able to sort of take this on, but that I could. And so she was the one who sort of kind of ushered me and not pushed me, but helped me see more clearly that I was on the path. And also gave me the gift, which I really consider a gift, of, letting me know that this is something that's ancestral, which is, a very important part of my medicine now. I do a lot of ancestral healing and call on my ancestors a lot for my work. But it was, unbelievable, some of the things that she would say. Like, for example, I remember the day before I met her through that medium, I had gone out, and I think I had bought 20 yellow plants. And I was just like, I think I just really like this for the color. Like they're going to look good in my garden. And she says to him, it was something like, if you're ever going out and buying so many of the same plant and you don't know why, but you're just compelled to do so, like, it's me.
Whoa.
Like, really, like, and I was like, what? Like, it just really, like, completely undeniable signs and messages, and so clear. And even, the medium was like, she was so clear. I feel like I've never had a clearer, interaction, especially from like that time period. So that was definitely a moment in my life where it was just like, okay, this is undeniable. And whether or not I sort of choose to take advantage of this, if you will, I definitely can't say that this is not real. And just one, I know I'm jumping around a little bit. This isn't about my quote origin story, but this is interesting. I think will be interesting to you. So just this past weekend, I was home with my mom, and I have been getting for the past 4 or 5 months the push to do a healing for my mom. So my parents know what I do, and they're totally down with it. And my mom's always kind of like, will make little comments. And I'm like, well, we can do it together if you want. And, she's never really taken me up on it. And so I don't really push it. And, it is what it is. But I keep getting pushed. You need to do this for her. You need to do this for her. You need to do this for her. So this past weekend, I'm at her house, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to do it. Am I going to ask her? And I'm, of course, being a little shy about it because I know she's not like inviting it. And I miss a couple opportunities to actually do it. like where we had a couple hours together or whatever. And so I wake up, one morning and I'm making breakfast and my daughter's like sleeping on the couch, like watching TV. And there's this poster that's like sitting up, that my mom's had forever. And it's a Gil Scott-Heron poster. And it's, I think, for the album Spirits. And I've always looked at this and never really thought anything about it. But this past time when I went to her house, I kept looking. I was like, spirits, huh? Like, interesting. Maybe I should listen to this album, like whatever. I just like kept connecting with that word. So anyway, like I said, back to the story. It's the morning, I'm cooking, my daughter's watching TV, and all of a sudden something comes like crashing down. So I run into the living room where my daughter is, and I see that the album Spirits has fallen, not hit anything else on the shelf where it was, only hit this huge hourglass that just shattered all over the floor. And I look at my daughter and I'm like, Gemma, did you do that? And she's like, no, like, Mom, like, how can I do this? I'm so far away, like under a blanket, like clearly has not been up. And so I just say to myself, okay, spirits are telling me the time is now. Like, you need to do this.
Yeah, and you're running out of time.
Yeah. So my mom comes downstairs and that had just happened. And I'm looking at her and I'm like, okay, I feel like I have to ask her, but like, we're supposed to be leaving now. And she goes, oh, your dad decided that he's going to come with us on this place where we were going. I was going to go do a blessing of my brother's space. Your dad's going to come with us. So, like, we have a little bit more time. He's in the shower. So I'm like, okay, do you want to like do a session? And she's like, yeah. So we do this session, and honestly, it was so profound. It was, without really getting into too many details, I saw all of the things and the ways that my mom is that has like made me, emotional or feel some sort of way against her or resentment. And I'm like, why are you like that? Why, like mom-daughter stuff.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But I saw the root of it through her when she was a toddler and all of these things happening, and why she, evolved, grew up to be the way that she is with certain tendencies. My mom's a lovely, beautiful person. I'm saying, if I feel like because I'm not telling you the details, it sounds like worse than it is. But like I said, we all have, relationship things with mothers. And so it was the most like profound healing experience, both for me personally, but also for my mom. Because it's like all these things that I had maybe resented are just, I see why it is the way it is. And I just totally, all the resentment just washed away. And I could just understand her on a deeper level. And then for her, it, the messages and all the things were extremely healing. And my grandmother, who I was extremely close with, is my mom's mom, actually came through in the healing as well, and just had a lot of pointed messages for my mom. And it was such an interesting interaction because my grandmother and I were closer than even my mom and I were. And she passed away, and that was really, really hard. But even though I'm doing this work, she's like never really, I never really interact with her. But she came through this time, and, we're saying these things to my mom, like through me. And like, even the way that she interacted with me, it was like completely just soul to soul. Like, it wasn't like she was like, oh, Donnie, my granddaughter. Right. It was just like, thank you so much for this work and for supporting her. And it was just, the whole thing was so affirming and profound and healing. And so I am just like such a true believer in ancestral healing and ancestral medicine. Part of when we were doing the healing for my mom, all the ancestors were lined up in a line. I was one of them. We were all dressed the same. And they sort of took my mom's clothes off and took her into the line and were welcoming her as like a sister in our like spiritual line. I mean, it was absolutely beautiful. And so have always been connected to, my ancestry, but just like that was such a deepening force, if you will. So it was really beautiful to sort of come full circle, because my, fourth great grandmother who sort of brought me into this, and now being able to see the power in the ancestral healing and the ancestral energy through my work, and then especially through my work on my own, like on my mom, it has just been like such a profound experience.
I have full body chills hearing your story. And I feel like, and for the listener, if you're watching this on video, I feel like you'll appreciate this. Donnie is burning this incense where there's this beautiful smoke that's wafting around you. So I feel like we're just sitting around this campfire right now with your ancestors all behind you, just they're holding like the space.
I'm like feeling like,
I feel them in here so strongly right now. Yeah. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Ooh.
Sorry, I know that was very long-winded, but I felt like you like really and had to take you through the detail.
100%. And I have to interrupt this podcast episode to tell you about a product that I am absolutely obsessed with and have been loving so much. And that is Elix Cycle Balance. This incredible women's hormonal health supplement that was created on the foundation of Chinese medicine helps you balance your hormones so that you can feel better every single day of your cycle. For me, this incredible supplement helped me on my journey getting off of hormonal birth control and has helped me feel so good. I have so much energy. I have very limited physical symptoms, especially during my cycle. And I just feel good. So I cannot recommend this stuff to you enough. I am not a huge supplement person. I don't take a ton of supplements. So for me, it's just my daily multivitamin and this and some elderberry that I take for immune support, and that's it. And this has really changed the game for me. If you want to give it a try, go ahead, check out the link in the show notes and use code 15EmilyL for 15% off. What has that taught you about being a leader and a channel and a healer for helping others connect with their own ancestral line? What have you learned about the importance of this sacred connection that we have and how that fosters our own gifts and our own intuition?
Oh, I think it's just, it's really just shown me the important, like the medicine in connecting in that way. I think there's so much healing there, whether it's, going back to your childhood to work through things and connecting with ancestors in that way. Or it's going back to maybe your roots and your origin story and connecting in that way. I think that connection is so powerful, especially because it's a very easy way to recognize your own divinity and connect with your own power, something that is undeniably yours because it's in your blood. And I think that on this path, and part of the reason why I was so interested in looking into my ancestry and understanding that more is because I wanted something that I could say, okay, by blood, I am connected to this. And I'm not appropriating anything. Yeah. I don't have to feel silly if I'm, doing something in this tradition. I don't have to feel like I'm constantly walking on eggshells and having to always ask permission. Obviously, we should always ask permission and be grateful for the opportunity to practice whatever it is that we're practicing. But I think when you can connect with something that is yours through your ancestral line, there's like, I mean, there's so many things that happen. One, it's like a return to just like inner knowing. It's just like in your blood, right? This is what you do. This is what you can do. And two, it's just like, I don't know, it gives you something to be proud of and connect to, and something like a legacy to continue. And it just sort of washes away, I feel, all of those, can I do this? And all of those questions that I think a lot of us have when we start out on this path.
100%. And also, too, I think it's so important to mention that being a woman of color in the spiritual space as well is so powerful and so important, that you're also bringing this work through your own lens and through your own ancestral experience as well. So what does that mean to you to be a woman of color in the spiritual space as a shamanic practitioner? I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Oh my gosh, I have so many thoughts on that. So many thoughts on that are probably not going to come out as coherent, but I am grateful for the opportunity to hold space for people that, I don't know, maybe feel like they don't really fit, or they can't really see themselves in this world, but maybe can connect with me and feel like there is a place for them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you think about me and my background, so I'm a Black woman. I used to be so I studied psychology of sensation and perception, and thought I was going to be a neuropsychologist PhD. I went to grad school for that as well, and then didn't end up going down that path. Then I was a marketer and like marketing exec in New York City. Now I come from a very, very, what's the word? I didn't have a lot of money. I didn't have a lot of means. My mother was a single parent. Um, did everything on scholarship, had to really leverage my community to help put me into boarding school for high school and help me pay my rent and tuition in college. So I had that aspect as well. Then, I live in the suburbs in Connecticut of all places. And so I feel like I am sort of all of these seeming contradictions.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention, you heard a lot about my ancestors that were, on my fourth great grandmother's side, like that maternal lineage. But I'm also 18 or 20% Irish. And one of the things that I realized when I first started getting into shamanism is that every single time I wanted to journey, even before I really knew what I was doing, all of my helping spirits and all of my pathways into the worlds were deeply Celtic.
Yeah.
And so I was like, what is this? And then I realized that, I do have this part of my ancestry as well. And I would say like the Celtic shamanism ties and all the ties to the fairy magic are very much that part of who I am. So really getting back to like, I'm all these different things that seem contradictory or just really all mashed up into one. And I guess the rebellious Aquarian in me, the eccentric Aquarian in me, also, I take a little bit of pride in that I'm like the weird one that people are like, what? I don't even know where she fits or how this works, but I still am. I'm still, a practitioner doing what I'm doing, and I'm effective, and so I really hope that I am someone that people who feel like oh, well, maybe my story's a little messy, or, you know, I don't have this like deep tradition that's gone back, hundreds of years, or maybe I am a little bit of a mutt. I hope that they look at me and see what, the work that I'm doing, and are inspired to like live their truth and know that they have a place. And that goes for, the women of color, as what, like everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, so I have a lot of feelings about that. And one of the things that really warms my heart is a number of messages that I get from women of color that are so happy to be able to work with someone that maybe has similar experiences, that is showing up in a way that they haven't necessarily seen a woman of color doing yet, that feels like it resonates with them. And so that's been interesting. I was actually just having this conversation with a few people in my circle, but it was all about like putting your authentic self out there, especially as a healer, so that the right people find you. And I always really struggled with that. So when I first started, I was like, I don't want my education on my website. I don't want this. I just want people to know that I'm effective and that I've studied hard, and, that I am, that I'm authentic. That's all that should matter. And the number of clients who are like, well, I stalked you on LinkedIn, and like finally you made me dig for it, but I found this article on you or whatever, and I learned about your schooling and this and that. And I'm literally only here because like of all these things you were trying to hide about yourself, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized, oh, like I need to actually lead with some of those things, not because it's like, I don't know, it won't actually take away from whether or not somebody trusts me. It actually just helps the people looking for someone that they can relate to, that will help them like receive in the way that they need to receive. It just helps that person connect with me.
100%. Absolutely. So that poses a question that's coming through for me, which is, I know there are a lot of people listening to this episode who may have some fear or anxiety about being out there as their most authentic self and sharing their truth, whether that be with their local community or family or friends, or just kind of coming out of the spiritual closet. Maybe that is being a practitioner. So what advice or guidance would you give to someone who feels like, oh, I'm a total weirdo if I get out there and I share my authentic self with others? How did you work through that yourself? And perhaps how would you advise or guide someone who's going through that?
I think that a lot of times someone going through that, just as I did, I think a lot of times it's inevitable, like it's going to happen that they're going to come out, or that they're going to connect with it more publicly, right? So it's almost like just taking baby steps into it is maybe the right way to start, because at least in my case, and I think in a lot of cases, it's inevitable. It's like one way or another, if this is your path and you're meant to do it, like you're going to get into it. And so I find that, if at least in my own experience, taking small steps to either connect with it or share with a partner or share with a parent or post something on social that would maybe help to more identify or align me with like, the direction that I was going in personally that other people didn't know about. Taking it step by step, it just gets easier with every time you do it. And I know that's like not a rocket science kind of like aha moment answer, but it's almost just like, just start, just like dip your toe. see how that feels. And I think hopefully for a lot of people, they will get more support and it will be so much less scary than they actually thought it was going to be. I had, my fair share of people being like, so like, what's with you and the crystal thing? Like, when did this happen? Where you have to like feel like you have to explain yourself, right? But I feel like that gets easier too, because if it's your authentic self and you're just being true to who you are, like, what's someone gonna say? Like it's your life, it's who you are. You don't have to what's the word, like explain yourself to someone who's wondering, why are you now embodying your true essence? It's like, why are you not?
100%.
Right?
So true. Yep.
So, I mean, not to like get super sassy, but my answer is, I think just like dipping your toe, baby steps, do what makes you feel comfortable. Like, I'm still very much on this journey of like being seen and showing up and like really fully embodying my authentic self. So this is a conversation I'm having with myself all the time. And I will say like at least for me, it's gotten to the point where my guides will be like, we've told you, like, this is what you need to do. You keep doing this journey to like ask the same question, you keep getting the same answer. And so what we'll tell you is, if you can express yourself, if you align with this, if you really get out there, then we will open more doors. And that has very much been true for me. It's like once I came out of the closet, then I got more. And then I went deeper into, aligning with my truth. And then I got even more. So for some people who are very like rewards oriented, like I am, the rewards of the helping spirits and like what they will bring to you and what you can manifest were huge motivators for me to really be in alignment and just show up.
I love that answer. It's so true.
Yeah.
I
think my son is really like interested in what we're talking about.
I love it. I want to pivot our conversation a little bit because we haven't even gotten to the topic of your amazing jewelry product-based business. So,
that's all right.
Can you tell us a little bit about Highlight Rituals and what that represents?
Yes. So Highlight is a fine jewelry brand that is made with. Starting again.
Wait, can I ask you the question again? Because I have a different way to pivot it that I wanted to ask. Okay, here we go. So speaking of being someone with very Aquarian values, one thing I really love about you is that you have an incredible business that is so unconventional and so fun and just really represents all of the mystical values that we have here at Emily the Mystic, which is your jewelry brand, Highlight Rituals. So I would love to know more about that. Can you share more with us on what we need to know?
Absolutely. So Highlight is a fine jewelry brand and it's infused with healing energy. And so every single piece that we create is activated by me. So I do a shamanic ceremony for every piece and infuse it with healing energy, supportive energy for the intention of the piece. We offer pieces that, you can just sort of buy if they speak to you. And we also offer custom pieces where you do an energy reading with me. And then I will recommend something, or if you have something in mind, I will customize it for you based on what comes up in the reading, and make sure that it is infused with the right energy to support your intentions, and also the right crystals and materials to support you in your healing journey as well. So it's really a very tangible, I guess, practical, if you will, application of a lot of the shamanic work that I'm doing. And it's my way to, kind of touch people's lives and help them focus, like stay focused on their intentions and what the kind of life they want to lead, essentially. I have, always but I actually didn't start out as, creating a jewelry brand necessarily. It was more that I wanted to create some sort of very beautiful, tangible tool for people that held energy and could serve as, something that could help them with daily ritual or just aligning with their intentions. And so it just so happened that it felt like jewelry was that vehicle. And so that's essentially why we're a jewelry brand. Um, but, the other really interesting thing about Highlight is that it started basically at the exact same time that I started on my spiritual journey. And I feel, looking back now, that it was the way for my guides to get me to really step into my purpose and um and do what I needed to do as a shamanic practitioner, but in a way that I could understand, because I've always been very creative, very visually oriented, and, loved jewelry, especially vintage inspired jewelry, which is, kind of like our vibe, and love crystals. And so I honestly feel like it was them being like, okay, look, you know, first create this brand that channels all this energy that we need you to channel as a healer, but you're doing it in this way that, like, you initially think you're just making a jewelry brand. That's like, but actually it was this like conduit for so much spiritual growth and shadow work for me. Um, and so it's a really interesting like manifestation of like my journey and my sort of connection with my guides. And it's funny because every sort of step, or in the evolution of Highlight, if you will, I get a different guide that's there to usher it. And each one is connected to sort of where I am in my own spiritual journey, just like outside of the brand. And so, yeah, it's something that I hold in a lot of esteem and that I keep very, very pure. Much to my husband, who I lovingly call sometimes a muggle. He's like, this is a business. Like, what are the margins? Like, did what revenue have we hit? Meanwhile, I'm over here doing all these healings and making jewelry and like forgetting to invoice people. And it's like, it's, to me, yes, it is a business, but it is my way of combining. It's essentially my healing art. It's like my physical healing art. And so I really treat it as such. I don't have investors. Like, we fulfill from my home. I, hand write, hand pack, hand bless everything. And that is the way that it's meant to be. And so it's a really beautiful space for me to be able to work in. And I've been really excited about how just the response to it, and reading from reading people's reviews and things like that. It just like really delights me and makes me feel like I'm definitely on the right track. So
I'm obsessed. And I also have to show off my beautiful piece here on camera. I had the pleasure of receiving a healing from Donnie and a beautiful spell bracelet to go with it. And this session couldn't have come for me at a more perfect time because I think you had seen me in the midst of a series of challenging circumstances, including but not limited to falling down the stairs, slipping on ice and spraining my ankle, and some other really strange things. And what came through for Donnie during the session was here's the intention. I slow down and open to the joy of connection. And boy, did I need to hear that at that time because I was going a gazillion miles a minute, as I often do. That's how I prefer to work. And I have found that a lot of the things that I've been wanting to manifest and a lot of the things that I've been wanting to create need to come from a portal of slow growth and patience and consistency and connection with others that comes from slowing down my pace a little bit and just being a little bit more open to letting others in to support me as I slow myself down. So thank you for this because it is a work of joy and I'm obsessed with it.
I love it. I was telling Emily earlier, like this one was particularly hard for me to give away. I looked at it after we finished and I was like, oh, it's so dreamy. I love the energy in it. So I'm glad that you have it and I hope it works wonders for you.
Absolutely. And where can people find you? Where can people find Highlight if they would like to purchase a piece of their own?
Yes, if you would like to get a piece of your own, we are at highlightrituals.com. And Emily will have a code. I feel like I should know the code right now because it's like the right moment to tell it to you. But we'll have to get back to you on it later.
We'll put it in the show notes.
Yes.
Don't you worry. There will be a link in the show notes. Yes.
Mm-hmm. But it's highlightrituals.com. And then if you are called to see me more just from a energy healing perspective, you can book me at lightnessbydonnie.com.
Perfect. And of course, we have to end our conversation today by talking about being a mystic. So, Donnie, I would love to know, what does being a mystic mean to you?
So being a mystic means, I think, seeing beyond the surface and really understanding that everything carries energy, everything is connected, and just deepening your relationship with that fact and not just living that way sort of on the surface, but bringing that fact and that knowing into your everyday life, into all of your practices, into all of your connections and interactions with others. Yeah.
Yes. Do you have any final tips for us for living a mystical life?
I think so many tips. I would say really try to deepen your awareness. I feel like it starts there. Deepen your awareness, sense the energy around you, connect with your intuition. More importantly, actually trust your intuition and don't question it. Don't question your abilities. And recognize and connect with the subtle ways that spirit interacts with you. Recognize the synchronicities and again, trust them, don't question. I think that's arguably the first and most important sort of step in making your life more mystical.
It's a perfect way for us to end this conversation. I love it. Thank you, Donnie, for sharing your mystical wisdom with us here, and also for bringing all of your ancestors to the party. I recognize them. I see them.
They're like always, I sit down to do a journey and it's like,
hello.
But I love them. I have a crew. We roll really deep, but all with love. So
one more question. They want me to ask you, do you have any guidance for someone who wants to connect with their own ancestors? Where do you start?
Ooh. So there are some crystals that can support this. And maybe actually after I'll give you a list we can add to the show notes, but there's one in particular that I work with called Ancestral, but it has a few other names. And I like to work with this stone at my Earth Star chakra, which is about 6 inches below your feet.
Mm.
And I put it there sort of in between both feet. And I try to do a grounding or a root exercise where I see roots going into the earth through the bottoms of my feet. And I just try to connect with that deep earth energy that ancestors are definitely, connected with. And call them like with my heart, like have the intention that I am connecting with them, like have the intention that I'm trying to bring in their energy into my life and see what happens. You can also, if you don't want to work with the stone in that way, you can try meditating with it at your heart center. But it's really about setting the intention that you are wanting to connect, and making sure that you're in a place where you're undisturbed, where it's still, where you feel supported, and you can really, kind of leave your body, if you will, and call to them. And then again, back to my notes about living a more mystical life. When you see the signs, when you receive the messages, when you feel what you feel or perceive what you perceive, don't question it. Because I find that the more you question it, the more you can you sort of turn the dial down on any of those signs and like sort of how loud or how frequent they are, right? And that's the opposite of what we want to do. So definitely recommend working with the crystals though, and with sort of earth energy, which obviously crystals embody, but also through your sort of rooting and grounding meditations, to connect with the ancestors.
100%. Thank you. I feel like this also kind of opened a connection for people to sense and feel their own ancestors' presence as they listen to this episode.
I hope so.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Donnie, for coming on the show. We appreciate you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And the portal is now closed.